Welcome to the Knowledge Management Podcast in Africa, where groundbreaking conversations shape the future of knowledge across the continent. Join us as we bring together leading experts and thought leaders to explore innovative strategies, tackle challenges, and drive transformative change in how knowledge is harnessed and utilized in African context. Stay tuned as we dive in.
Here is Christian Elongue, and we are here on this platform to kickstart with another episode of the Knowledge Management Podcast in Africa. It's a podcast that is dedicated to knowledge management practitioners on the continent of Africa, and which aims at highlighting what they are doing, their initiative, their projects, and also disseminate the practice of knowledge management on the continent. So we have reached out to you considering the fact that you are a knowledge management practitioner, and we are glad to have you here with us today. So we will be glad. Could you kindly introduce yourself to our audience, please?
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. Professor Madeleine Fombad is my name. I'm a professor of knowledge management at the Department of Information Science at UNISA, where I am teaching knowledge management and researching in knowledge management.
Okay, thank you so much. So as a professor of knowledge management, you will surely agree with me that knowledge management as a scientific discipline is not quite widespread on the continent of Africa. There are very few schools in Africa that are actually teaching knowledge management as an academic discipline. Could you have an insight on why knowledge management, even though it is quite popular and very well used in Western and other Asian countries, is still neglected in the academic field in Africa? Do you have some insight or explanation for that, please?
My forthcoming article in Library Trend is coming. You watch it in volume 21. It's a special issue on international perspective of knowledge management. And my article there is re-examining knowledge management education in higher education of learning in Africa, a South African perspective. So in this paper, actually, as you are just put on, I advocated for a professional qualification in KM, because even though knowledge management has been in the field for long, and it has been in this paper, I'm saying that it has been a discipline since the 1990s, but it is not mainstreamed in qualifications. Even in my university, in that research is only University of, you see, Kenya and Botswana. Very, very few institutions in Africa that have that knowledge management has become a formal qualification. So in that paper, that's where we are advocating the need for knowledge management to become a qualification. So in that my paper, I think we watch out for that paper. I do hear what you are saying, and it has not been prioritized. So it is more of, I'm saying in that paper that knowledge management is more, even though it's very there in public and private enterprises. You have knowledge management is being practiced, but then I say, because it is not yet a formal qualification, people don't really know what it's all about. So we are advocating that the need for knowledge management education. That's what I and some colleagues all over the world, but I did do this the African perspective, where we are advocating the need for knowledge management formal qualifications. I think that's why it is not really been, and where in that paper where this qualification, because right now you did call me knowledge management practitioner, but I'm more of a researcher. Are you seeing that if I'm advocating that it should be such that the knowledge management program in this my paper, I'm saying it should try to engage industry. It should be in a way that industry is very involved. We go to industry and know what is happening. The academics engage with industry, internships, and all that, so that it can really be integrated into society. So just watch out for my paper in Library Trend, volume 72.1. It's forthcoming. I did articulate. It's really acknowledged, and that's what, as knowledge management educators and practitioners, we are now advocating for a qualification. The need for a qualification, formal qualification in knowledge management. Thank you.
Beautiful. It's very interesting to know what you just share about how They are currently development concerning the qualification of knowledge management practitioners. And actually, from what you have indicated, we can clearly see that the work that is currently being done by you and your other peers in the academia is the same that Kabod Group is currently doing in the industry in Africa, because as at now, there are very few institutions who are promoting knowledge management as a practice in the industry sector. So we look forward to the article. Now, you will also may have noticed that if knowledge management is increasingly gaining recognition, is because of its value and contribution in solving developmental challenges, one of which is climate change. And you recently published a paper on the contribution of knowledge management in solving climate change challenges. So could you give us some insight? What are the key ways that KM can contribute to climate change resolution, which is one of the key global thematic currently?
We'll start by saying, yeah, that's my research focus now. I am actually looking at knowledge management for sustainable development. And then before we understand what are sustainable development practices, following the Brundtland Commission, the definition of sustainable development, there are practices that meet the need of the present without compromising the ability of future generations. And since the World Bank report of 1998, knowledge management has been considered as an essential element in human development, where in the integration of political, economic, and social activities take place with respect to the natural environment in order to guarantee the ability to meet the basic needs of communities of the present and future generation. So my knowledge management for sustainable development, it's very important. It's very important to, I'm advocating for knowledge management for sustainable development, particularly not only climate change. My research area has not only been in climate change, but also even in poverty. So that's been my research. I've been focusing on knowledge management for sustainable development. Since 2017, with my research moving from private organizations to public organizations and following the Brundtland in 1998, as I'm saying. So that's where my research focus has been. Knowledge management for sustainable development is about systematically and routinely creating and gathering and adapting and sharing knowledge for sustainable development. So knowledge management for sustainable development will also contribute to the triple bottom line, of people, profit, and planet. And it's important because knowledge management, because it will induce a change of behavior for managers, for organizations, and everything. Because knowledge management, when you use it for human development, it will capture and share good practices that may feed into developmental policies and programs and provide a knowledge-focused perspective on finding solutions for short and long-term survival of well-being. So the strategies, there's a challenge. Research in knowledge management have been focusing on public and private organizations, knowledge management organizations, but increasingly, as I'm saying, since the Brundtland Commission, and since for my part, since 2017, I've realized that, and following the generations of knowledge management that has evolved from first generation of information management to the second generation of individual organizations, and to third generation, where people will call it information technology. I will call it I will call my fourth generation of knowledge management as the generation of knowledge management for sustainable development. So that's my thinking. And that's why since 2017, my research focus changed from looking at knowledge management in private organizations to looking at knowledge management for sustainable development, as I did say, where I'm looking at how knowledge management talks to poverty, talks to climate change, talks to crime, talks to all the 17 SDGs. That's the focus of my research. And the whole aim is to see how we can develop strategies. You can develop strategies for knowledge management, because there are many challenges for knowledge management in information. The difficulties in capturing this knowledge the institutions, they're not working together. People don't prioritize knowledge management. But the way to move forward for knowledge management for sustainable development is to see how we can looking at strategies, doing research that you can look at strategies to enhance knowledge management, where there can be leadership, where there can be motivation, where you can draw a policy for each of the sustainable development goals, just like as I did in climate change, I've also done in poverty. But that will not be enough unless there's no knowledge mobilization. So you don't only do that, but you also do research in knowledge management for sustainable development, as I'm saying, but then you then see how you can engage the community. That's engage, they share this information through knowledge mobilization, through conferences, through enabling the community to really know the challenges. Because if I do it and I say, okay, knowledge management is because there are challenges, the information, Africa, we can call Africa as a knowledge economy, because there's a lot of knowledge that we have. Just talking of climate change, a lot of indigenous knowledge that is there. It is not being used. People don't know. So as a knowledge manager, conducting this research and then doing it's not enough, even though it is good now, as I'm saying, since 2017, which I decided that that's my fourth generation of knowledge management, which is knowledge management for sustainable development, unlike others who will say it's artificial intelligence. I strive to, you conduct this research. You don't only conduct the research, but you see how you can do knowledge mobilization through conferences, through disseminating this information, through radio, getting people to know the importance, how you can share this knowledge, how you can transfer this knowledge, because leadership doesn't actually get a buy-in, how you can, inform governments on their policies for knowledge management, because knowledge management has become very key to sustainable development. So, yes.
Okay, thank you. So indeed, I think you have clearly indicated that so far a lot is being done, and especially at the level of the reorientation of your research priorities to focus on knowledge management for sustainable development. But here is the case where we notice that in Africa, most of the time, policymakers will usually have a great influence on the application of research results or research findings, do not often collaborate or partner effectively with academia and even sometimes with industry to ensure that the policies that are being developed and implemented are actually, grounded in evidence-based basis, So at your own level, what and how do you collaborate with government? Let's say, for example, in South Africa, how are you ensuring that the government is leveraging on the findings, leveraging on the knowledge products, the knowledge resources, the indigenous knowledge that are being, created? Because at the end, what's the essence of knowledge if it's not applied? So how do you ensure that policy, actually act and apply indigenous knowledge that are being found to advance sustainable development?
Well, that's what took me to that's community engaging the community with knowledge management information, going to the local, through the radio, we talk, we sensitize, even organizing conferences, small conferences in seminars where you disseminate this knowledge, and also hoping that that's what we are doing at this point. But looking forward to and hoping that because as we did say, there's no point in doing this research when industry doesn't know, industry is not informed. So visiting organizations and sharing your research findings. So just trying to engage the community, and then trying to also preach the knowledge management, story, and encouraging them, because leadership might not want to understand what knowledge management is all about. They don't want to understand what knowledge management is all about, even though knowledge management literature is all over the place. And most organizations are talking about knowledge management. They want to practice knowledge management. They don't understand what knowledge management is all about. So as a knowledge management practitioner, it's our duty to, visit those organizations, encourage them, talk to them about the importance of knowledge sharing, importance of the importance of capturing this knowledge, this climate change, this sustainable development, all these human development challenges, and the important role that knowledge management can play. So that's why I'm looking again and saying that if maybe when our research now, we are advocating for knowledge management education, maybe when knowledge management becomes a qualification, then the practicalities of this knowledge management, the internship and all those, the practicalities of knowledge management may be infused now in industry. So, but from my point of view, from my side, it's mostly through the conferences, through radio talks, through visiting organizations and sensitizing my ideas and encouraging them and telling them that, let them know that knowledge is an intangible resource, and that sharing it, they will not want to share, and sensitizing them about the importance and what knowledge and knowledge management is, and the importance of managing knowledge in this area of sustainable development.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's great to see that beyond just doing research and teaching, you are also engaged in advocacy and implementation. Now, let's imagine a scenario where you have all the resources are available, you have all the power are available. What are the 3 key actions that you envisage undertaking to advance knowledge management research and practice in Africa? 3 key actions. It's basically a what-if scenario. If you had all those resources, what are the 3 key things that you will be doing to advance knowledge management in terms of research, practice, and to influence the development on the continent?
I didn't understand your question.
Let's say that you have the policy power, you have like all stakeholders on your side. What are the 3 key actions that you will undertake to advance research and practice on knowledge management in Africa? So it's basically a scenario where you have all the power, all the financial resources, and all the willingness or political will that are needed. Where will you start? What will you do to advance knowledge management in terms of research and practice on the continent?
First, I will, if I have that if I have that buy-in, I mean, if I have the buy-in from government, if I have the buy-in from everybody, first we are looking at knowledge management education. We'll see how we can, get knowledge management to be key aspect in the curriculum of many African, I will see how knowledge management will be prioritized and be, a key aspect in the curriculum, how it can become a qualification. Because right now, as I did say, it's just about I'm teaching knowledge management, I'm graduating students on knowledge management, but it is not a qualification, and because of that, there's a lot of duplication. This university is teaching this little thing, is teaching this thing, so we'll see how we'll make knowledge management as a qualification. Once knowledge management is become a qualification now, we'll then see how we can now talk to industry, how the qualification should be such that practice and industry will work together. How do we infuse? How will be the practical? How the theory will align to the practice?
Okay, thank you so much. So now one of our last question is about, we are currently at the level of Kabod envisioning to move the online community into a more organized structure, a more organized group, where we'll be having a steering committee to blend, advancement at the level of industry and also academia and government when it comes to knowledge management. Is it something you'll be interested in contributing to?
That's nice. That's very interesting, because as I did tell you that I am, if you give me that power to do, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to see how we can make knowledge management as a qualification, and how we can infuse it in the industry, how we can, in practice, and yeah. So I will be interested in things like that.
Okay, thank you. And finally, what would be your last word to anyone who is listening to you, who is considering whether or not he should venture into knowledge management, what would you say to anyone who does not know much but who is interested? Why have you chosen the path of knowledge management, and why should someone do the same?
Why did I choose the path of knowledge management? That's yeah, when I was thinking of what to do with what research to do for my PhD, and I was wondering what to do, and my supervisor then told me, "Oh, I think knowledge management is the in thing," and that was sometime back in 2009. Yeah, 2009. Then, yes, he said knowledge management was the in thing, and I then realized that yes, knowledge management, the amount of knowledge that we have, and we don't know how to, how to manage it, or we hold it and we don't want to share, and all those the concepts of knowledge management. I started reading it and it became very, very interesting. And I then realized that, you know what, we are now, as I did say, Africa is a knowledge society with all the indigenous knowledge that we have. I, as they say, when an old man dies in Africa, the library is burned. How do we get this knowledge? Knowledge is knowledge that can always be shared, but it cannot be depleted. The knowledge that, it's always there. How do we manage it? How, all the community of practice, when I started all the knowledge management concepts concepts became of interest to me, and that's why I started researching, as I did say, in knowledge in law firms. So I will encourage, it's still knowledge management is still a very, very topical area, and as I did say, I will say we are in the fourth generation, so of it's come to stay. And even though other people would refer to fourth generation of knowledge management as artificial intelligence, as I did tell you, I will refer to my fourth generation of knowledge management as knowledge management for sustainable development, for human development. So there's a lot of work and a lot of interest to do in knowledge management at this point in time with all the societal challenges. Knowledge management, managing, creating, sharing, distributing knowledge, ensuring best practices, and putting knowledge for the organizational memory. Getting knowledge together is the key to enhance development. Given the developmental challenges of today, I would encourage anyone to look at knowledge management, and if and particularly for sustainable development. There's a lot that has to be done there, but my only regret, and which we are now advocating as academics, to get it, as I say, as a qualification where people can study it, not as, because right now people are owning it, like an information scientist. We say, okay, this is my area, this is what I take there. But there is a lot of job opportunities when you do knowledge management. You can become, a knowledge manager, you become a knowledge management specialist, information specialist. It cuts across all other organizations. You can work as a human capital manager, you can a network administrator, information security analyst, health information analyst. So in every profession today, there is a need for a knowledge manager. So I will encourage anyone to do knowledge management for the sake of there's a lot of opening as a knowledge manager, and also the research today as a fourth generation concept that we'll see how we can use through knowledge management enhance development.
Thank you so much. So we have come to the end, and we'd like to know, is there any addition, any other thing that you would have loved us to talk about and that you would like to share before we close, please?
From your own point, we're talking about what challenges within that organizations commonly face when integrating knowledge management for sustainability. The challenges that organizations normally face when integrating knowledge management for sustainability.
Yes, please. You want to?
I will look at yes, I will look at the information overload. I think I've talked about it, and then the lack of access of the right information and knowledge at the right time, and the fact that there are no coordinated institutions to coordinate and manage the generation and codification and sharing of knowledge. and that knowledge workers, people keep on working in silos. They keep on, and it still remains very difficult to document and capture, undocumented knowledge. The indigenous knowledge is still difficult to capture it. And then the fact also that leadership, as you say, if you give me that opportunity, but unfortunately, most leadership in management, in most organizations do not consider KM as a priority. So if you ask me, I would say there is a need, for organizations to continue to, for top leadership and commitment in the knowledge management in any organization. We need to get that buy-in for top leadership and commitment in any organization. As if there's strategic link between knowledge management and government objectives, it will be good. And maybe incentives for contributing to knowledge management projects or anything. It may help for knowledge management to be prioritized in organizations. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. And I believe at the level of Kabod also, we are also in that endeavor in terms of creating more awareness on the benefits and strategic relevance of knowledge management for industry organization. Because you may have also noticed that in Africa, there are many organizations that will basically not survive beyond the founder. And one of the main reasons is that we have very poor knowledge management practices integrated within our organization. There is a poor culture of learning. We really do not learn from the past. And we, at the level of Kabod Group, are on this mission of ensuring that African business, African civil society organization are aware and understand how knowledge management tools can help them to build more efficiency, to build more effectiveness, and increase their sustainability across department, in HR, in technology, in people management, in processes and the rest, because that is still not yet been done on a consistent and effective way across many organizations. So we will be glad to collaborate with you and anyone else who is listening to this podcast. If you are a knowledge practitioner, you have ideas, you have articles, you have content on knowledge management that you would like to share, do not hesitate to reach out to us at info@kabodgroup.com or Elongue, ELONGUE @kabodgroup.com, and we'll be glad to increase the awareness of your content and give you a platform to also share your expertise and understanding of knowledge management in your field. Thank you so much, Professor Fombad, Madeleine, for making time for us. We are really blessed to have had this conversation with you, and we know that it's surely going to be a blessing to any knowledge management practitioner and a quality contribution to the body of knowledge out there on knowledge management in Africa. We were blessed to have you, and we look forward to engaging more with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was an honor and pleasure for me to be part of this. And as I did say, my paper will be coming out soon on knowledge management education. So you will watch out for that in library training. Yes, where we are advocating for knowledge management education. Yes, so it's very interesting that was what we were also thinking about, and that's been your concern. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We'll talk after the paper. Yes. Okay. All right. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another insightful episode of the Knowledge Management Podcast in Africa. We hope today's discussions have provided valuable insights and actionable takeaways for maximizing the potential of your knowledge assets. To stay connected with our community of practice and continue the conversation, join us on LinkedIn at Knowledge Management Professionals in Africa. Don't miss out on being part of the transformative movement shaping the future of knowledge management on the African continent. Until next time, signing off.